astronauts, this is Brandi and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. If it is your first time here, hello. As I mentioned, my name is Brandi and I like to combine astrology and tarot to give everyday, real world, based in reality, everyday predictions. I am a practical tarot reader. So this week's reading is actually an idea I came up with. Just kind of like a tower epiphany moment. And it is you and your spouse's first year dating. I don't think I've seen this before. So I've just filmed first year married, and now we're going into the dating. So I'm very excited about this reading. Now, I did buy some new crystals, so what do you guys think of two of my latest new crystals? Now, don't just choose them because they're new, okay? Choose the pal you feel most called to do, to read, to get a feel for. Choose the vibe that you are on. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say here. So before we get started, I do want to remind you to like, comment, and to subscribe. Also, I offer private tarot readings. All you have to do is fill out the form below, and I may have something else available soon enough so that I can have more readings available to you guys, but be on the lookout for that. If you want to vote on what type of readings we do next, all you have to do is visit the polls. I will also poll you on your opinions about life and other tarot things. And you know, this is an educational channel here, so I love teaching and also learning from you guys when it comes to tarot. So let's just hop on in. Oh my gosh, almost forgot. I go live on the weekends. How could I forget that? I go live Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Time is posted on community tab by Tuesday night. And sometimes I pop up during the week. So be on the lookout for that as well. So that is all I have for you guys. Now let's get into these pals. We have pal number 1, pal number 2, pal number 3, pal number 4, and pal number 5. So let's not waste any more time and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey pal number 1, let's get started on your first year of dating your future spouse. We have the Death card, the Hierophant, the Two of Wands, the King of Wands, and the Page of Pentacles. And let me pull out my little oracle card for you, which is Moon and Pluto. So, wow. Some very strong Plutonian vibes, especially with the Death card here, connecting to Scorpio. And then we have the planet Pluto, which is like the traditional ruler, not traditional, the modern ruler of Scorpio. So when we see this, we know that you guys are going to go through a transformative phase throughout your first year dating. This is a transition of more than likely leaving behind certain ideas, probably concerning tradition, but since we have the Hierophant there, to me it feels as though this is like a blend of mindsets. And what I mean by this is you may take on some traditional ideas that you may have had about relationship. And I don't necessarily mean like the men go out and get the bacon and the women are homemakers. What I mean is we all have a sense of ideology when it comes to our own relationships based on what we have seen in our upbringing. If you are someone who has seen your parents sort of maybe work together and do a bunch of different chores, and they set up a calendar or a spreadsheet of who does what chores whatever week, you might think, oh, I'm going to bring this into my relationship as I move forward. And I mean, this is the first year dating, so it might not be specifically that unless you guys move fast, but I don't think so. This is one of the slower moving pals. So it's going to be like a certain way that you think dating should be is going to transform, okay? And your relationship is going to start to be a blend of those past thought processes or values or systems you had in place versus creating your own unique avenue in what's right for you. So what I see here is that one particular partner is going to be taking a lot of the lead, because we have the Two of Wands, which connects to leadership, and we have the King of Wands, another sign of a leader. And more than likely, this person is going to be doing the bulk majority of the planning of the dates, the bulk majority of, more than likely, sending a lot of those morning text or afternoon text or whatever. They're the person who more than likely is initiating most of the conversation. And because of that, they will be, I guess, leading the relationship, essentially. Now, I don't see like there being an issue with this at all. I don't see a lot of different like arguments or frustrations in regard to that. It just seems to me one person is actually going to be a lot more creative and a lot more romantic and a lot more assertive when it comes to planning dates, getting together, being in contact. And I think that this experience is going to be a lot different than what you're used to. I feel like with this Death card here, and we have this Hierophant, it's like you're shifting away from something that you have previously dated. Like if you've had a type that you attract, whether that's physical or personality wise or both, this is someone coming in that is particularly a little bit different than your normal type. I think it also mentions that your partner or you are going to be very ambitious. They're going to be someone who is constantly looking to problem solve or innovate, or they're likely to be someone who just has a strong vision. Okay? That's what I want to say. It's someone who is like this unstoppable energy, but then also highly charismatic. I feel as though when we have this moon, it's showing to me, this moon with Pluto, there is a deepening of intimacy and connection, especially with the moon and Pluto coming together. Sometimes it can represent like, you know, power struggles in a way, but since I don't see a lot of beef and there seems to be more compromise, or there seems to be a sense of, I don't know what's the word for it, like somebody's okay with somebody taking the lead and someone being the person who's the planner and doing that. Like there doesn't seem to be tension around that. It's just like, okay, that's fine. But so since that's the case with the cards, I don't think this moon and Pluto energy is connecting to this power play or power and control element. I think it's more connecting to emotional intimacy, having a deep connection, which is what the moon and Pluto does when it comes together. It represents being like this raw version of yourself and not being embarrassed to be a little bit goofy or to say something that is on your mind, or to, I don't know, it's just a strong sense of confidence in who you are. And so to me, it feels like this first year of dating, you both become very, very comfortable with each other. Like there's no hiding, there's no sense of embarrassment, there's no feeling of like, oh, did I say something dumb or whatever. It's just like, I'm accepting this person for who you are. All right. One person is like, I'm planning the vacations. Granted, I don't think this is like taking too many vacations. These cards don't really indicate that. The Page of Pentacles is more, I get, for local traveling. So more than likely staying within the area. Two of Wands can represent thinking about plans towards the future. So you are very future minded. And this pile in particular is definitely serious from the jump. There's not a sense of like, we're just hanging out trying to get to know each other, then it becomes serious. This is like, no, we both have an intention of looking for someone to build a connection with. And we are looking at each other from that lens, especially with the Death card here, connecting to Scorpio, because that is the house of married life. And then we also get the Hierophant to represent marriage as well. And these two cards are opposite of each other. Isn't that fun? So it is a sense of sharing each other's values as well when it comes to that first year. You guys go really deep in your first year of dating. You're feeling motivated to grow with each other, to make progress, to support each other's ambitions. There's a lot of that going on. To me, I feel as though you're discussing early on what it looks like to move in together, to build a future together. What are your long-term goals? What are you thinking about family? Like, you guys have a lot of deep conversations early on, especially when it comes to family dynamics and even just past relationships or experiences, or even if one person in particular has some childhood traumas, this can connect to that, especially since we have the moon connected to Pluto. That can definitely relate to some heavy, emotional, turbulent moments in the childhood. And so you guys may open up about that early on, or even just, doesn't even have to be early childhood. It can really be teenage years, early adulthood, whatever. But it's an opening about things that you've experienced and your emotional world. But I really feel like you guys are making sure you're on the same page early on. So you guys come in very, very serious energy. There is some probably emotional baggage to deal with, but to be honest, I feel like these cards are showing that you guys are handling it well. There's an acknowledgement of certain, behaviors or projections. Sometimes if you've had a pattern of relationships that have been chaotic or unfulfilling or just not having great dynamics, you may bring those patterns into your new relationships. And I feel like you guys do a great job at checking that and making sure that this is a healthy relationship that is built to grow, that you're not looking to carry any old baggage into the new relationship. Like, you're trying your best to check that and say, oh, wait, let me let go of this old pattern where I didn't trust someone and I didn't open up to them, or let me not hold my feelings in, or let me be more communicative and not have my walls up. So you're both doing a great job at checking any sort of behaviors that may have been detrimental towards you in the past. I feel like you both do a great job at setting your expectations and communicating that to each other early on, especially when it comes about communicating your needs. I can often get the Page of Pentacles to say, I just need to talk to someone about my needs and what I need in a partnership, what I need within a relationship. So I really like the way that you both will choose to navigate partnership within that first year. The Hierophant can also connect to receiving advice from others. And so you guys are receiving a lot of support and strong advice from people who have a good perspective or a healthy perspective on relationships, whether that's like your personal therapist or a family member or a coworker, whatever the case may be. But someone is going to be giving you solid advice when it comes to adjusting to each other's needs within a relationship. It's very exciting. There is a lot of strong attraction here. And I don't know, to me, you have those conversations on, do we want to become exclusive? Is this heading towards something serious? Yeah, you guys will have those conversations, but to me, it's not a feeling of uncertainty. Sometimes people head into those conversations and they don't know what the other person is going to say. But this feeling is kind of like, we should have these conversations as a formality. But we kind of both already know, yeah, this is something serious and this is exclusive. But you still have the conversation, but like I said, you both will have a sense of certainty, like, yeah, I know this person wants to build a relationship with me. That's the feeling I get from this pile. A strong sense of security, which I'm not gonna lie, some other piles, it's not the same, guys. Not to say that any relationship is better or worse than the other, but I'm just saying that this particular pile, you both feel like secure within each other. Okay? You both feel as though you have the ability to work together in the long run, that you can meet each other's needs, that you can show up for each other, that things will work out. And that's like this mindset that you have. I think that you guys will do a great job at acknowledging the milestones that you've undergone, that you understand that you have a mutual respect for each other's belief systems. You both show a strong sense of commitment, which could possibly be one of the cornerstones of your relationships. You feel as though you are meeting the family and friends, which I feel as though this first year, you guys are definitely meeting each other's family and friends. Like the Scorpio house, death card, whatever, is like other people's family and friends. The Hierophant is like your family and friends. And so 100% you're meeting each other's family and friends. That's just what it is. That's happening that first year. Okay? So like I said, it becomes very obvious that this is moving in a direction that's very serious. This could even be that you're evolving spiritually together. That you guys are making sure that you're remaining engaged with what is of value to your partner. You're not being dismissive of their needs or their wants or their desires. And then also when we have the Page of Pentacles, this is a very cutesy card because this is like, you know, my boyfriend, my girlfriend introduced me to a new song, right? Or a new band. And I really like this band. And we went to a concert together for them, like our first year. That's like a very Page of Pentacles vibe. I'm just giving that specific example, but it can apply to anything. Like, oh my goodness, they took me to this really nice restaurant. I really liked it. And I'd never been here before. And I now it's one of my favorite places to go. So you guys are sharing in each other's interests and you are liking what you see. I don't know what to say, how else to say that. It's like you explore things together, you see things together, and you're being introduced to new circumstances or places or things because of each other. And it's like they bring more fulfillment and happiness into your life. One thing I love about the moon conjunct Pluto is it can represent extreme highs. Like if you've ever been into astrological relocation, you know, sometimes people will say, stay away from your Pluto line, blah, 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 it's disastrous. Not necessarily. Your Pluto line can bring about these crazy wild events, but at the same time, your Pluto line can also bring about the most peace and elation and feeling a sense of happiness beyond belief. You know, gosh, I can't say this. It's on YouTube. YouTube blocks everything these days. But I'll just say that the Death card connects to a feeling of euphoria. Okay? So it's a feeling of euphoria within this relationship. And that can be happening within the first year. A lot of learning and growing. A lot of practical learning things about each other, saving. I feel like you're saving for a trip this year, but I don't feel like you're actually going on it during the first year, okay? Figuring out how to balance your schedules, you're very understanding of each other, okay? There's a lot of patience here. Don't get me wrong, the Page of Pentacles can sometimes get a little impatient. Same with the King of Wands, but it's not to the point where it's causing, you know, a fracture in the relationship. I feel like you guys just settle in well together this first year. So that's what I have for you, pal. Number one, like, this seems to me like a really great relationship. I think that you guys will do a great job at communicating your wants, your desires, and as well as supporting each other. And, you know, there may even be some physical transformations as well, because sometimes when we have Death and the Hierophant come together, this can be like, oh, I'm transforming my lifestyle or what I eat or what I put in my body. And so sometimes that happens with people in relationships quite often, right? Like, one partner can influence the diet or lifestyle of another, and I feel like that's happening within this relationship. But that's the last thing I want to say. I'm going on too long. And if this resonates with you, please let me know, and leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe. But don't forget to follow me on social medias. I vlog, you know, I have my other channels, some tidbits on my Instagram about different astrology things and some tarot things. And I go live on the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Time is posted on the community tab by Tuesday night. If you want a private reading from me, then all you have to do is click the description bar below and fill out the form, and I'll get back to you. And I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal. Number two, if you've chosen this giant crystal, then let us get started on your reading. We have the Two of Cups. We have the Ace of Cups. We have the King of Wands reversed. We have the Two of Swords. And we have the Magician. So let's get into this first year. And then also I have my astrology card. So what would we be without Astro-Tarot research? I'm just going to pull a card for you guys. Ooh, this one wants to come out. We have Mercury and Jupiter energy. So Mercury's coming up twice with the Magician and Jupiter here. You're probably going to be dating a talker. Okay, your spouse is a talker. So your first year married, obviously there is instant attraction here, especially when we have that Two of Cups and Ace of Cups dynamic. This feels new. This feels fresh. This feels like, oh, wow, I just really, really vibe with this person. I like them. I like their energy. Like, you guys get along like two peas in a pod. And I love to see this Ace of Cups energy, because to me it seems like a lot of emotional availability. It seems like a lot of, well, yes, a lot of emotional availability, but I was going to say for the word vulnerability. That's what it seems like is going on here. There is a lot of emotional vulnerability between you two, and it happens rather quickly. But I'm looking at this energy here when it comes to the first year that you guys are dating, and we have this King of Wands reversed energy. Now, King of Wands reversed energy, generally I get the King of Wands reversed to just kind of represent being a little bit unbalanced or a little bit extreme. So the King of Wands, when he is reversed, is kind of like burnt out energy. So either several scenarios are coming on. There's actually a lot I want to get into. But number one is that the first year of you guys dating, it may be that someone has a very demanding job, and it's almost as if they are spending a lot of time at work. Like, they are just not as available as you would like them to be, or vice versa. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one who's working a lot, and it just seems as though it's hard to make time for each other, especially since the next card is the Two of Swords, okay? I feel like this is being spread too thin. I feel like this is just like a little bit irritable. I feel as if this is, like, hey, it doesn't seem like we're spending a lot of time together. Another scenario when it comes to this King of Wands energy is well, both of you could be some hotheads, okay? Like the King of Wands reversed can be a little bit of an authoritarian or a dictator in a way. So it's almost like it's my way or the highway, right? And so I feels as if that at some point in this year while you guys are dating, you get into this moment where it's like, it seems we are at an impasse. Like we can't come to a decision on how we would like to move forward within our relationship. Just at some point in the year. Obviously you end up marrying this person, so it works out, but just want that to be known. And maybe it even feels like at some point that there's a little bit inconsistency. Maybe it feels like, oh, there's a lack of effort, or opposite. There's you're coming on too strong. Like this is going too fast. Like please pull the brakes on this. Because a lot of times, or at least most of the time, I don't get the King of Wands reversed to be a lack of effort. I generally will get it to represent someone doing the most. Like it's like, please, you need to slow down. And so it can feel like things are going a little bit too fast when it comes to this first year. And when we have this Two of Swords moment, it's like somebody puts the brakes on things. Someone says, hey, like maybe we should, have a moment where we get to know each other a little bit more before we move into any other next steps. The Two of Swords is a very guarded card. The Two of Swords is not here to let people in. And so it can feel like, oh, maybe I have shared too much a little too fast, or maybe I got all of these different ideas and set these expectations that I actually don't know this person well enough to know that they would be able to meet them. Or maybe I didn't even communicate those expectations. The King of Wands can be a little bit overzealous when it comes to that energy. This can also represent, like, depending on the person and where they're coming from, they may have gotten out of a relationship, or maybe this is just due to some sort of thing that's happened in their life, or I don't know, there's lots of reasons for this type of behavior. But the King of Wands reverse can represent a little bit of jealousy, right? Definitely 100%. So it can seem like either jealousy or competitiveness between partners, whether that's you, who maybe you get a little bit jealous, or them that gets a little bit jealous. The interesting thing is, though, when it comes to handling those emotions, like such as the setting those high expectations and then being like very disappointed when someone doesn't meet it, or having these feelings of like maybe insecurity or lack of confidence or a little bit of jealousy, it doesn't get resolved right away. You guys have to go through this period in the first year where you have to learn to communicate those frustrated feelings, right? 100%. It's going to be a rising of maturity, okay? So I just want to say that maybe, you or them have a little bit of an insecure attachment style. I say that because Pentacles represent stability, security, groundedness, feeling like very confident within yourself and things along the lines of that. We don't have any Pentacles here. So it can feel like, that's what I'm saying. It can feel like maybe one of you or both of you may not have the most secure attachment style. And so it feels like, oh no, I might lose this person, or I have a little bit of an insecurity. So it's hard to feel like this person isn't going to leave me. It just happens, right? Like lots of people have to go through these circumstances, and then they have to learn to deal with those feelings. And I love that we have the Two of Swords here, especially since after it follows Mercury, because this to me shows that you guys are opening up the reins of communication. If there's one thing that you guys will be excellent at, or become excellent at, because of maybe some misunderstandings or some tense emotions, or imbalance of like efforts, whether it's too much or too little, like you guys will become very good at communicating those feelings. Like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit insecure right now. oh, I actually have a lot of work to do, so don't be upset if I can't answer my phone. Like, these are the conversations that you guys are going to have to have. Even if part of the year you guys want to avoid it a little bit. When we have Jupiter and Mercury here, this is like information overload, right? That is what I've noticed when I see this Jupiter and Mercury energy come in. Even as Jupiter aspects Mercury, it can be quite overwhelming mentally. Like, trust me, even personally, I've got Jupiter and Mercury being aspected in my chart in the sky right now. And you guys know that, you know, I'm in school, I'm like working 2 jobs and stuff like that. And it's a lot. When I say it's information overload, lots of information. And so this shows me that you guys will have a lot of different conversations that are going to be able to teach you how to love each other and how to express those emotions. Like I said, it feels fast, and then it feels like there's a lot of attraction here. And then it feels like there's a little bit of maybe, like I said, maybe some unrealistic expectations, maybe some insecurities, maybe somebody's putting someone on a pedestal, and then they're like, oh no, this person didn't meet my, they didn't buy me flowers today, even though you've never communicated that you wanted flowers. Like, stuff like that can happen with this King of Wands, right? And then you guys are getting to the point where you communicate. All of that is all I'm trying to say. When we have this Jupiter and Mercury, sometimes this can represent that you might meet while either you or them are in school. This can also represent that at some point in this period, this circumstance, this instance, this can represent that somebody is going to be changing jobs or expanding their roles or even taking on like a certain employment or hobby. That can happen. Okay. I do want to say that it just shows that when we have Mercury and Jupiter coming together, it's like an expansion of interest. And then traditionally Mercury connected to the career or aspirations or goals, which makes sense because Mercury is the planet that connects skillship. And generally you're going to build a career based upon your skills. So I feel like when you guys come together, either one, you guys start doing some hobbies or something. Maybe you guys start a business together. That's a little bit rare, but you guys start some business or some hobbies that are motivated by the other person. Number 2, this can also represent that this is showing that somebody is like, okay, I met this person and this person has inspired me to apply for X, Y, and Z job, or I'm meeting a lot more people because this person has a lot of friends. When I see Mercury energy here, it represents that you might be expanding your friend circle or the amount of people you come in contact with because of your spouse while you're dating. So this makes me think, excuse me, this makes me think that this person has a lot of different friends or just a big network circle or something along the lines of that. Mercury is a little bit more entrepreneurial energy. I want to be my own boss. So more than likely, it does show someone moving off into a lane that is more independent. Jupiter wants to expand the independent aspect of Mercury, the exploratoriness, the curiosity, and I do feel as though that is happening and shifting and changing within both of your lives the first year of dating. So expect to spend a lot of time with friends, families, or even just like I said, changing jobs. So now you have a lot more people at work to talk to, or somebody starts that business and they have a lot more work to do, or they go back to school, or you meet them while in school, and so they are expanding their mind through higher education while you're in this first year of dating. Maybe you're dating a doctor and they are doing their residency while you're dating. Whatever the case may be, it just shows that mental expansion here. I feel as though when we see this Magician card here, It's like we are learning to work through any sort of hiccups or hinks or nits or knacks, or what am I saying? Like any sort of tension we're working through, because we know that that Two of Swords can represent, oh, I'm avoiding having this difficult conversation, and then somebody gets the courage to speak, right? So when we have Jupiter and Mercury coming together, it's expanding your ability to speak. It is strengthening your communication, and so that you guys have a better understanding of each other's points of view. And then sometimes when we have this King of Wands following this Two of Swords, it's somebody concerned about making the wrong decisions. I've definitely met guys in particular who are so worried about choosing the wrong date that they're like, oh my God, what if I plan something wrong and then, you know, he or she doesn't like it, and then they end up just like leaning on the other person to plan the date, right? So there can be that type of energy where someone is a little bit more worried when it comes to that. When it comes to Mercury's energy, this can be a lot more attention. I do like to see Mercury and Jupiter come together, because one thing about the planet Mercury is Mercury's very romantic. Very romantic. If you've met Mercurial people, they get caught up in the romance. Don't get me wrong, they'll probably come off of like harsh and blah blah blah, these are my rules, da 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 da. As soon as they fall in love, like they're over the moon, okay? They are so silly. So I feel as though you guys are just like in that sort of silly love. Like it just feels as if you have this youthfulness quality to the love. There is a episodic feel to it. Like it feels a bit very cinematic. Like that's the vibe to it. Like it's an incredible story. Because when we have Jupiter coming together with Mercury, especially when we have the Magician here, it is very elaborate, the things that you guys will go through this coming year. Think about mercurial people, like let's say Donald Trump, right? And every other day it's a new story, right? Whether you like him or love him, whatever. I mean, I obviously, you know, I'm not a fan, but whether you like him or love him, you know that he's very mercurial. Every day it's something new, it's something different, it's something changeable. And honestly, a lot of the things that you guys will be going through in this year will be similar to that. It always feels like you guys have some story that you need to share about each other. And I feel like maybe for some friends and family, it may be a little shocking, because it can be, you know, when these energies come together. It's shocking, it's elaborate, it's detailed, it's like, this is a lot going on. Like that is something that can happen. And I feel this relationship is also the first year you guys may be taking a lot of different short travels. 100%. It's just in the cards for you. You're taking those short travels. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're spending a whole bunch of money, but I will say with Mercury there and Jupiter, it's usually like an increase of money. Worst case scenario, it's an increase of negative net amount of money, but generally Mercury is really great about creating more wealth and circumstances. And this is why I was emphasizing that someone might be getting a new job the first year you guys start dating, or, you know, expanding into other avenues for that. This relationship is not its own private abode, but I will say you guys will need to be more open about your feelings, and you will learn to close that emotional distance. I think it's almost like the more you guys get to know each other, you recognize that you like each other more. And when you like each other more, you're scared to lose each other. And when you're scared to lose someone, it's more difficult to be vulnerable with them, because what if you say, like I said, what if you say the wrong thing and they're out the door? So there's that feeling there. But this is really like, I want to build a life together. This is a lot of conversations when it comes to, what do you want to do? How do you want to innovate? What are you up to? Like, it's it's interesting because you go from these like lovey-dovey type of cutesy conversations to almost like very business minded, and like, what are your interests, and like, let's focus on that and building that. And it's just like very, you guys are almost like this academic or career powerhouse couple, you know? And that's how the vibe feels like as you guys get to know each other more. So I do want you to keep that in mind as you guys are talking and doing things together. There's never not going to be a time where things feel slow. I think this Two of Swords, even though it can represent an impasse, I don't think it's necessarily saying, oh, there at some point in the first year dating, things feel dry or anything like that. I think it's just more what I said before about the opening up of feelings. Because when I'm seeing this Mercury and I'm seeing this Jupiter, it's really never ending with you guys. Whether that is, you know, you're exchanging different messages, you're calling each other every day, you're going on weekend trips, you're checking out this new, I don't know, hotel bar, you are going to a music event, you are I don't know, deciding that you want to go skiing with each other, you are learning languages, and it's just like you both will be invested in expanding your interests and spending time together, going out, doing things, talking to people. I really do feel like for this pal, the person that you're meeting is a very charismatic person, and they just need to work a little bit more on their confidence, or maybe that's for you, whatever the case may be. Sometimes these readings go either way. But I just feel as though there's just a lot of busyness. Okay, this is not the couple where you sit home on the couch and you guys watch TVs and listen to the radio or whatever, right? Listen to the radio, like people do that anymore. But you know what I mean, and play games or whatever it is. This is like, we are going out, we're doing things, we have interests, we're going glass blowing, we're going jet skiing, we're gonna do a hot air balloon ride. Like it's all over the place, right? And it's big, it's grandiose, especially with Mercury and Jupiter together. Like, you want to do big things. So be on the lookout for that, because I feel like this is a lot of big commitments the first year. Your first year dating, this couple, I don't know how to emphasize it enough. It's a big commitment. You guys really jump into it really fast. And there is some big financial opportunities happening because of you guys coming together. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of teaching and learning when it comes to communicating your thoughts, your feelings, and those frustrated emotions, because you guys don't want to hurt each other's feelings. And there is a lot of there's just a lot of activities happening. And it may be, like I said, at some point frustrated and juggle everything, but there's a lot of love here. And it's almost like you will get to know each other very, very fast and know a lot of details about each other, because Mercury deals with a lot of details, especially when you have Jupiter in Mercury. That's like an expansion of all the details you need to know. And so that's like knowing someone like the back of your hand, the back of their hand, the back of their foot. Like, you know it all, okay? And you're going to learn it about each other. So that is what I have about you, pal number one. A beautiful relationship you have with your spouse. You guys are spending a lot of time communicating. That's good. You're getting it out there. You are growing together. You are maturing together. And you probably are going to be making a lot of money together. So just want to say that. And I will see you guys next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal number three. Let's get into you and your spouse's first year of dating. We have the Page of Cups. We have the Knight of Wands. We have the Emperor. We have the Six of Wands. And we have the 10 of Wands. And we also have our Astro card. So let me pull this out for you. We have Jupiter and Saturn. love Jupiter and Saturn because this is all about a balance, to be completely honest. When you have Jupiter and Saturn come together, it's like you're trying to balance restriction versus expansion. And what I mean by that is, like, let's take dating, for example. When you are dating, you may not just accept a date from anyone. You may have some standards that you need in order to accept a date from someone, like being attracted to them, or them having a stable job, them treating you with respect. Those are your standards. And that's very Saturnian energy. Here are my rules. These are the restrictions, right? Versus if you have a more sort of Jupiterian energy, this is honestly, it's a little bit of a lack of standards, which is not necessarily bad, because let me get into it. When you don't have certain set standards, you have more opportunities to make connections, which is why Jupiter is known for being this planet that can open up opportunities to make connections. Lucky people are the people who are always meeting new people. So this is what I'm saying. But on the same front, if you don't have those strong boundaries, you can open yourself up to a whirlwind of chaos, which can also connect to Jupiter and dark night of the soul and not having restrictions on things. So there's a balance between that. It's like you don't want to be too strict because you'll miss out on opportunities, and you don't want to be too, open because it can lead down a very disastrous road, and you're like involving yourself with people who are too chaotic. Now, when it comes to you and your spouse's first year of dating, there's a little bit of that dynamic. And it's actually funny because we have the 10 of Wands. And on the card, you can see Saturn and Sagittarius, which is a Jupiter-ruled sign. So this Jupiter-Saturnian dynamic is happening. And so to me, it feels like you two are both trying to work on establishing boundaries or standards or rules within your relationship. And this could be anything from like, hey, like I would like you to be available to me all the time. And then one person's like, well, I can't be available all the time. Like I have a lot of work to do. It's just going to be too much for me to respond to every message, like very 10 of Wands energy. And the other person may say, okay, well, we can, how about let's make it like every day I need to hear from you. And then they're like, okay, well, I think I can do every day. That seems to be fine, but don't expect like long, elaborate messages every day. As I mentioned before, I have this very busy life, right? And that's that push-pull energy, like the expansion versus the restriction. And so you're figuring out different things and different aspects of your dating life when it comes to this person. Do I always pay for every day? Do we split sometimes? Like, do we both pay our own way? Like, it's just, it could be anything, really. Do we meet all the friends at once? Do we have some of them, you only meet certain people? Like, it's a lot of that. A lot of figuring things out. But I really love the Saturn and Jupiter combination because when they come together, it's almost like Jupiter's abundance, and Saturnian also can represent abundance as well, but it's like stuff you have to work really hard for. And so Jupiter's abundance and Saturn's sense of strong direction and focus becomes ignited, and it creates powerful results. So you can get someone who is, instead of, oh, I just, give money out to friends and family whenever I feel like it. It's like, well, no, maybe I want to only give money to people who have shown me a strong sense of appreciation, or who I feel like really needs it, or they're really working on themselves and they're building their future. And I know this, whatever, $100 could really help them out. That's cool, right? Or people who will pay me back, and I've seen a history of them paying me back, right? So there's more restrictions, but you're still allowed to be abundant. And within this relationship, it becomes about understanding each other's boundaries, understanding the best ways to communicate with each other, understanding, how often you want to see each other, when to introduce each other's friends or families. This all becomes part of the conversation your first year. So you guys hit the ground running. I do want to say this Knight of Wands should be reversed because it's following this Page of Cups here. And when I see these combinations of cards, the Page of Cups is indicating, obviously, first year of dating, you guys are attracted right away. It's not really like a grower type of energy, especially when we get these Pages of Cups. Page of Cups is just like, I see someone, I think they're cute, I want to spend time with them. I feel as though this person piques my interest. Like, it's not too deep, but you're like, okay, this is nice, this is fresh. It's very like, this person gives me like butterflies, but in a good way, not in like, the toxic, this is tied to trauma way that the internet goes on about. But no, this is a good butterfly feeling. Like, this person compliments me, I compliment them. They seem to be open. We seem to be open to each other's feelings. There's a sense of playfulness, a little bit of vulnerability. Obviously with the Page of Cups, they're not the most mature card, but I don't think the cards are focusing on like, oh, just jumping into this very mature relationship right away. In fact, I get the Page of Cups to represent a little bit of puppy love. So I feel as though either one of you or both of you, it's like when you are dating this first year, the intentions aren't necessarily like, we're going to get married. Like, that's not the thought process between you and your future spouse. You guys are just kind of like dating, get to know each other, and you just recognize that there's a vibe between you, that there's a connection here. And maybe there is some daydreaming about the future, but it's really more so, this is about the here and now. Okay, so I want to say that. You're both trying to do your best with balancing those expectations that you set for each other and that you may not be communicating out loud. All right. And another pal is like this, and it's very similar. It is a very similar vibe, not completely and totally, but it is very similar. I want to say the Page of Cups is not necessarily a card that is known for being a highly skilled communicator. They communicate how they feel, and oftentimes feelings may not, as we all know, are not necessarily based on like reality or truth. We may feel a certain way, but it's not necessarily that somebody has done something that is actually offensive or something along the lines of that. So what I mean to say is there may be some misunderstandings. Maybe someone says something and your spouse or you, and it rubs one person the wrong way, and they get in a mood about it, and you're like, oh well, I did not mean to take it that way, and that's not what I meant to say. Or if you're somebody who has more of an insecure attachment style, then you know what that's like. You know that oftentimes if you have an insecure attachment style, you automatically go to this place where you can feel like abandoned. Like you may automatically assume the worst. This person is going to disappoint me, or let me get ahead of this situation before this person, does X, Y, and Z, or maybe even I don't want to even set expectations because I don't want to be disappointed. That can happen with an insecure attachment style, right? And it's not necessarily that that person has shown anything to prove that they are unreliable or they're a shifty character, but those feelings are there. And this is what I want to say, sometimes feelings aren't grounded in reality, which can be very much Page of Cups. So there may be some hot and cold behavior based upon misinterpretations or misalignment when it comes to understanding each other's intentions, where one partner may feel like they need more attention and the other partner You know, maybe they're not picking up on the signals, they're misreading things, and they think everything's fine. So things like this happen, right? But in my mind, when I see all these cards, I don't see bad intentions here. I just see people you guys may not be completely communicating those feelings and those expectations in the best way you know how. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if someone says something to you, instead of saying like, oh my goodness, like that really hurt me. I really don't like when you say that to me. Instead of doing that, you just kind of like don't respond to the text, right? Pulling into that stonewalling behavior, which is emotionally immature, right? So there's that. The Knight of Wands can also be a card where someone may have a lot of enthusiasm towards something, but they could not follow through on their promises. And I don't believe that this is intentional. I say that because we have so much wand energy and we have this 10 of Wands energy. So either you or the person, your spouse, are going to be very, very busy. They have a lot going on. Trust me, that 10 of Wands energy is like you are being pulled in all directions at once, where they might be someone who has 2 jobs, and then they're in school, and then they run a business, and then they have hobbies, and then they have friends, and now they're dating as well. But then they also have responsibilities at home, right? They have to make sure their home is clean. They're not living in filth, and they've got to take care of themselves. So they've got to exercise, and they've got to hit the gym. And this person will definitely want to exercise with all this wand energy and the Emperor here. And so they're overwhelmed. And so some promises that they make, like, oh my gosh, I want to go on a really cool trip together, you know, at the end of the year, they're like, oh, actually, I didn't really think all of this through. Like, I didn't really plan this right. And they can't keep those promises. So during this first year, you or your spouse, or maybe even both of you, it can happen, may end up over-promising certain things that you can't meet. And it's not necessarily terrible because we have this Emperor card here and the 6 of Wands and the 10 of Wands. And so even though this may happen at first, there is a sense of growing in terms of responsibility, in terms of understanding your duties, taking them seriously, because the Emperor is just like, oh, well, I can't keep this up, right? The Emperor is always thinking and planning about the future. So they're like, oh, I don't want to be this unreliable person. Or I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm disappointing others, or something along the lines of that, or vice versa, whatever. And you guys decide to work on that, or they decide to work on that, so that they can meet their promises. Because one thing about the 10 of Wands is they're going to make sure they come through on their commitments. That 10 of Wands energy is like, I am committed heart and soul to meeting my goals. And I want to make sure that I am committed to the things that I said I would do. Even if I'm a bit is kind of light, even though I'm overwhelmed, even though I'm frustrated, even though I'm stressed out. So at some point, hopefully, you know, towards the end of the year, end of the time you're dating, one or you or both of you will unburden yourself of certain responsibilities, or will be able to let go of certain things, so that it becomes less stressful to make time for each other or to meet expectations. One thing I do want to say about the Knight of Wands, and you know, I'm not here to upset you guys or anything like that, but I would be in the wrong not to mention that the Knight of Wands reverse can represent that quick temper, right? Especially next to the Emperor. Sometimes I get both of these cards to represent some arguments, and it looks like it just may be like arguments over stress, or the things that I talked about, miscommunications, misalignments. But the Knight of Wands reverse can be very reactive, and the Emperor can be someone who's very stubborn and feels as though that they it's not a card of compromise. It's connected to Aries and Mars, and that's the opposite of Libra, guys. That's the opposite of like teamwork. That's more so me focused. And so one or both of you might be focused on like, oh, this is how I feel, and how come this person can't see my perspective, and I've got to prove I'm right, rather than we need to work as a team. That's going to be something that you guys work on that first year. One thing I do see about this is this can represent feeling very proud of each other. There's a sense of pride and wanting to show each other off and feeling like, oh yeah, this is my man, this is my woman, whatever. You guys feel as though you have met someone who is of value, okay? That you met someone who makes you feel like a winner. This person brings you some sort of confidence boost. And with that Six of Wands energy here and the Emperor, it looks like you two as a couple, as a pairing, will be validated by family and friends, or could be just friends. I only say that because usually I might get more pentacles for family, or maybe like the 10 of Cups or something. But it does show that there is a sense of validation there. They're like, oh, wow, you are with someone who's amazing, and they did X, Y, and Z for you, and they seem like they're so accomplished, especially with the 10 of Wands there. The 10 of Wands is somebody who is known for being extremely accomplished, who is known for following through, who is known for taking on a lot, to having to deal with various different challenges. It just reminds me, like, if you see someone's, or you read someone's autobiography and you recognize all of the hoops or the circumstances that they may have needed to overcome to gain success. And that's that 10 of Wands energy. It is a successful card. It's just a bit overwhelmed and stressed out. So it feels as though you've both chosen someone who you feel like, oh, I'm a winner. I've won. I've gotten someone who's really, really great. There's a sense of pride in being together. And I also want to emphasize that I feel like you're both like sharing a lot of different compliments towards each other. That there is a feeling of like, this person makes me feel good about me. And also it shows that you guys are definitely the couple who's really celebrating those milestones. Like, oh, it's our 6-month anniversary, you know, it's our year anniversary. There's that going on with you guys. And I also feel, because we have the 6 of Wands, the Emperor, the 10 of Wands, you're motivating each other to complete your goals. You're making sure that you are both in alignment with being on the same page where you're rooting each other on. Like, this isn't like, oh, I don't want you to do X, Y, and Z because that takes away time from me. It's like, no, I want you to accomplish your goals. I want you to do this and that. I want you to feel pride in what you are pouring your energy into. So you are both really great at supporting each other when it comes to that. I really do see a lot of passion here. So that tells me very strong intimacy. Very strong intimacy, especially this first year of you guys dating, even if there's some tiffs and arguments or something along the lines of that, and trying to understand each other's perspectives. To me, it shows that there's a strong attraction, and that's definitely going to pull you through. Sometimes I often get the 10 of Wands to represent like an unbelievable level of attraction. Like, I really desire this person, right? That's something that I can see from that. I think that you guys are very much so moving in a direction where maybe at first you guys are just kind of like dating, you're getting to know each other, but you're not sure if it's like, oh, if I want to date for long term or not. But then somewhere like mid-year within the year that you're dating, it's like, oh wow, you know, this is like getting a little serious. Like, like this person is actually becoming like a constant in my life. Someone who I'm relying on. Like it's the vibe changes. It goes from like this playful energy to like very serious. And so it's almost like the feeling of, how did this happen? Like, like, how did this happen? Like we were hanging out, we were being cutesy, and now it's like, wait a minute, we're starting to talk about like our how many children we want. We're starting to talk about like, where do you want to live? Like, we're starting to think about like, do I want to take a job offer in Cincinnati because I won't be able to see you? Like, it's very much like, wow, this became serious, and wasn't expecting that, you know, especially that Knight of Wands energy. Knight of Wands reverse is not the best card for future planning. And so it's just, it feels a bit like unexpected. But I think that once you guys get to this phase of like, oh, seriousness, and, you know, let's make this really official, that's when the communication starts to improve. That's when it starts becoming about like my way, their way, and it starts becoming like, okay, we need to figure this out as to how we are going to plan our future together. Like, we know that because the Emperor represents stability. I will say with the Emperor, it does show that there may be somebody who is a little bit more traditional, who's more like, you know, I would rather be a provider, etc. Like someone takes the lead when it comes to those traditional roles. The Emperor is very, very traditional. I just have to throw that out there. And I know people feel as though that Jupiterian energy is boundless and endless, and it's all about just accepting everything and da 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 da. But Jupiterian energy can also be extremely traditional, and we all know Saturnian energy is traditional. If you've ever met a lot of Jupiterian people, they can, what's the word? They can encourage others to look for structures that are beneficial towards family units, and oftentimes that is built upon societal traditions. So I'll say that. And I see this happening within the relationship, where one person is saying, you know, I feel like we should lean in towards more so those traditional dating patterns. Like, I want this to be official. I want us to be thinking about our future together. I want us to be thinking about planning our goals and how things are going to move in the long term. And it's less about being experimental. That quickly phases out, and it starts becoming more about building towards something impactful and meaningful step by step. So it starts to get into, you're going to need to meet my family. You're going to need to meet my friends. Now, like I mentioned before, whether it's family or friends, you know, whatever. But you're going to need to meet someone who means a lot to me. And it's just going to be a very structured relationship from that point on. And also, maybe for some of you, it can show that one partner is leading the decisions. Okay, especially since we have the Emperor and the Six of Wands. Both of those cards represent leadership. And it's not necessarily these cards aren't necessarily about too much collaboration. Last thing I want to say is that sometimes it can feel as though at one point one partner might be putting in more effort than the other, or that even for some cases it can feel as though the seriousness is coming with like a lot of different responsibilities that maybe one or the other person or both weren't expecting. And it just may feel like, wow, I am juggling a lot of different schedules, expectations, work, family. It can feel like that. And it can even feel like a sense of pressure, you know, like it's like, oh, we were having fun before, but now it feels as like I have to live up to some sort of standard. That can happen, you know, just have to throw that out there. But generally it can just mean that one partner's busy, you know, that they just have a lot to do, or both of you have a lot to do. That's what I want to see there. But just try to make sure that you guys are both balancing the load of the relationship. You're both making sure that it's not one person driving all the energy and pushing things forward and making the decisions and saying, well, now we're a couple, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. It has to be something that's going to be more balanced. And that goes back to what I was saying before with that Jupiter Saturnian energy. Learning to have that balance between somebody's putting in this much effort and somebody's putting in that much effort, and kind of like going back and forth with that. That's going to be something that you guys focus in a lot on that first year. So that is what I have to say for you, pal number 3. I went on a little bit longer than I expected, but I really wanted to give a comprehensive reading. It sounds like you are very attracted to your partner and you find this person to be very exciting and fun. And that first year dating is definitely going to be a whirlwind, especially how quickly it goes from like lighthearted to like, woo, we're serious. And I just want to wish you all the best. Don't forget, I go live on the weekends. It's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I pop up during the week sometimes. You can get a private reading from me through my form. And I'm obviously working on another avenue that you guys can use, because I know some of you prefer different payment avenues. So I'm working on that. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and vote on the polls on what readings you want to see next. And I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal number 4, let's get into the first year of dating your future spouse. We have the 10 of Cups, the Page of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles reversed, the Ace of Wands, and the 10 of Swords. And then let's get into our card. We have Sun and Saturn. So when we have this Sun and Saturn energy, that involves a lot of dedication, a lot of focus. It really does represent needing to ensure that you're both in alignment, okay? It can definitely representing frustration by communication. Or frustration with communication. And I think we can see that here with this 10 of Swords, where it feels as though this may be a challenge area for the both of you this first year. Even if the intentions are good, it's almost as if you both have different needs when it comes to communication. In my experience, the Sun and Saturn type of energy can be representative of one person who is not clear in providing their expectations or their needs. And there's almost like a sense of just expecting someone to know something. So, especially when we have this Page of Swords and Knight of Pentacles, these two cards are very much different in their approach. The Page of Swords is kind of like, I'll handle things as they come, and then I'll deal with those situations in a way that makes sense. Versus the Knight of Pentacles can want to go over every single detail. This is kind of like if you were planning a date. One person may be more so, they might pop up that day and say, hey, what are you doing at 9 p.m.? Like there's a concert, right? That's very Page of Swords. Versus the Knight of Pentacles, especially reversed, can be very much like, hey, you're going to need to schedule 2 weeks in advance if you want to go out or something like that. They're very regimented. They like their schedule. They're not one to go outside of that, especially when the Knight of Pentacles reverse. Sometimes they can be structured to a fault where they don't leave room to negotiate. And the Page of Swords is obviously they're not thinking on that level of the King of Swords, where they are understanding that other people's lives are not as flexible. So that can be something that is going on within the relationship, needing to understand the importances or the important factors that someone places a value in their life. You know, for example, if they say, hey, I can't go, I can't stay out late, right? So we can meet up, but I can't stay out late, or something like that. And, you know, one person might push them to, I guess, break their boundaries, and because they like spending time with them, and then they end up staying out later than they should have. They're tired the next day. They don't perform as well as at work, and it causes some issues, right? So this first year becomes about communication and learning to respect each other's boundaries, and understanding when somebody says, hey, this is important to me, it's important to them. It's not an argument. It's not a back and forth of convincing someone. It's just like, hey, this is how it is, right? So that can be something that either one of you or both of you are working on within that first year. The communication needs to grow, and it will grow, I believe, especially since we have this 10 of Swords card towards the end, where this is a breaking point. This is like, you know, we can no longer go on this way. Wires are getting crossed, and etc. So hopefully you guys haven't clicked off yet or anything like that. But there's good news here. We have the 10 of Cups, and this is why I said there's probably good intentions here, right? There's probably an understanding that you two have a deep connection that is binding you together. The 10 of Cups is often very smooth and considerate towards each other, which is why it's so interesting that it goes from this place of being very empathetic to maybe not fully understanding someone else's point of view. It could be that things get busy, or, you know, you guys just don't know each other as well, as much. And so things are a little bit lighter in the beginning. Granted, I doubt it. The 10 of Cups is very much like we're together. Like, it's just interesting from the start that you are both thinking about the future and your life together and imagining this big picture of what could be and what will transpire. It's very much like you guys start off and saying, yeah, we are looking to start a family, or I'm looking to start a family, and there seems to be an agreement on that. But maybe all the details haven't been worked out. Maybe it is that you both are in agreements for type of family, but it seems to me maybe you have a different idea of different family structures or relationship dynamics, and that could be what's causing the miscommunication, or maybe not understanding certain boundaries or expectations. This can happen, right? But these things get worked out during the first year. So that's really great that you guys are putting that effort into resolving it. Because when you have Saturn and Sun there, that is definitely, you know, efforts to ensure happiness, completion, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of fulfillment. So you're putting efforts towards that, to creating a relationship where you both feel empowered, where you both feel heard. And I think that's something that's going to be paramount for you guys to go through, so that you can have this beautiful and bright and strong relationship. Because that is ultimately what both Saturn and Sun want. They want a relationship where they can be themselves, but it's also strong. It's also something that is long lasting and beneficial, and you feel as though both of you are able to fully express yourselves. I feel like when we have this Ace of Wands here, along with this 10 of Swords, sometimes this can represent like hurtful words or hurtful quick words. It may even feel a little bit dismissive, but I'm not here to say that, you know, you guys just brush this under the rug. I don't think that's happening here. I think there becomes a moment where maybe some hurtful things are said, and it's like, okay, we have to address this. We have to address this, and we have to confront this head on, especially with this Ace of Wands there. Both of you will want to take the initiative to ensure that the passionate relationship stays alive, that you are spending time together, trying new hobbies, sending those flirty texts, but you want to ensure that you're not being misinterpreted, or you're not saying anything that is going to cause any pain, right? And so one thing I love about this is that you too won't sweep things under the rug. You'll address it. You will tackle it. You'll be stronger for it. And ultimately, you'll have a very happy relationship. I think that this relationship, the first year, is filled with, I don't know, I feel like you guys may have some connections, like socially. Maybe you guys share a mutual friend, or you meet through a family member or a coworker, but it's like there may be some mutual connection there in terms of that, only because we begin with this Ten of Wands energy. And that's usually like, hey, you know, I know someone who knows you, or like something like that, something in the community related. And you guys may hang out with some friends and, you know, family, or whoever the case may be that first year. This is why I don't feel like you're being introduced to friends and family the first year. I feel as though at least one of you or both of you, or, you know, I feel as though like you guys may even be somewhat familiar with each other's friends or family. Like I said, it could just be one friend, could just be one family member, but that's already in the picture there. So somebody knows both of you, and that may not be for everyone, but that's at least, I'm going to say 70%. Okay. So there's a mutual person there. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, this person may not give the best advice. They may not give the best advice. I mean, I feel as though one of you or both of you might be reaching out to this person, and it's like they are doing their best, and they may be well intended in what they say, and they're there to cheer you on, but that advice is not going to be beneficial for your relationship. And I think when we have this Ten of Swords here, it's like, okay, maybe I need to not talk about certain things with this person, because I feel as though they might be fueling the fire, okay? Where it's starting to feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And it's like, why am I having all of these negative thoughts about someone who we've had such a great vibe with in the beginning, who everything has been so wonderful, and we have this understanding of shared goals and harmony, and then it gets to this place where it feels like, well, maybe we have rushed into things. Maybe I've idealized this relationship. I feel like, you know, I can't trust this person. And so now you guys will address that, especially with that Sun and Saturn energy. It's like, let's clear the air. Let's get it out there. Let's make sure that we're back in alignment. We need to be back in our bag. You know, we need to get back to this Ten of Cups space. And so I think that's going to be part of the journey this first year. You know, you start talking about kids and your future apartment and trips you're going to go on day one. And then it gets to a place where it's like, it feels so construed. It feels like we're so far away from that picture that we had. So I do want to note that. Okay. And there is a lot of passion within this relationship. There's a lot of excitement. To me, it feels as though this person makes you laugh, especially with this Page of Swords and Ace of Wands combination. I think that when it comes to how you two will get along or the things that you do together, there's not too much sporadicness, at least most of the year. There maybe in the beginning you guys are trying out like different things like axe throwing or doing like a cute picnic and things along the lines of that, but then it gets into a place where it's very routine. And yeah, you may do that routine in different places. For example, you guys might get into a routine of going to karaoke, but you might do a karaoke in different places. That's like that Knight of Pentacles, Ace of Wands combination. But you're pretty much in the same type of vibe, right? That is that sense of like consistency with that Knight of Pentacles there. Even when it's reversed, it still kind of wants to do the same things it always does. But sometimes it can be back to the drawing board. But for the most part, it's like I want to keep up with that consistent vibe. I think that you guys are going to fall into that routine. Maybe somebody wants a different spark and they're like, you know what? I still want that element of fantasy. I still want that sense of adventure. And I want to get back with that, you know? And then, you know, sometimes I get the Page of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands to be like jumping to conclusions, like, you know, who was commenting on your post, like, who's that on your phone, like, you know, scrolling through their social media trying to figure things out like that. It's like, come on. Someone might be doing that. They might be a little insecure, especially that Knight of Pentacles energy. Like, oh, you're going to leave me for someone else. Like, it can get to that point. But I do want to recognize the positive things that are happening here, which is there are those exciting moments. There are those inside jokes. There are those moments where you are allowed to clear the air and just have that open honesty that is going to make your relationship stronger and renew it. There is a feeling of strong attraction here, especially with the Ace of Wands. I like that you will have family and friend support. Even if some or one of them is giving terrible advice, they ultimately do support your relationship. It doesn't feel as though they're trying to actively tear it apart, which can be the case in certain other spreads. But to me, it feels as though you guys just need to get to a place of mutual understanding. That is really all this first year. And so things that are happening is that you're able to bounce off new ideas, debate random topics, say things like what's your guilty pleasure, and sending random facts and memes and things along the lines of that. It doesn't feel like you guys are on a strict timeline. No one feels a sense of like being pressured into like living together or blending finances or something like that. There's no sense of that pressure, which I really like to see. I think that you guys will feel as though there is some space for flexibility. Even if at some point it feels a little bit routine in the year, you guys will spice it up and say, all right, let's try things a little bit different now. And let's work on the consistency, the reliability, and the communication. So that is what I have for you, pal, number 4. Sorry if that felt very heavy, but I just feel like this first year together is almost like a whirlwind of emotions, you know? And it's good because I feel like you'll get to really know each other. And like I said, you'll have a better understanding of each other's boundaries. And you'll begin to have a lot more fun and excitement in your relationship once there is that mutual understanding. So that is what I want to say. So don't beat me up in the comments, you know. But that is what I want to say. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. And if you like the reading, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know, if you didn't like it, you know, choose another pal. Maybe I'm not the reader for you. Don't forget, I go live on the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have an option from me to get a private reading. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, I love to poll you astronauts. So come and vote on the polls and let me know what you think on what type of readings you want on this channel, or even I might ask you your favorite tarot card. It's random. I'm just curious. I want to get to know you guys, and I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal number 5, let's get into your first year of dating with you and your future spouse. We have the 6 of Swords, the 8 of Wands, the Ace of Coins, the Devil card, and we have our little Astro card here, which seems to be struggling to come out. The Sun and Pluto. All right, so the Sun and Pluto here. I really like the vibes of the Sun and Pluto because when they come together, this can represent a complete transformation of your identity at some point. And that can even just be your identity as a couple, or whether you're in a dating period, whatever the case may be. But there's a huge shift in how you see each other, or even how you see yourself at some point in this first year of dating. So I want to make that clear. When we have these cards coming together, to me, I feel as though it's like the relationship gets to the point where you need to address that certain things aren't working anymore generally, because we can look at that Pluto card to be sort of similar to the Death card or Judgment. Both of those cards have to do with leaving the past behind, right? And so there will have to be some sort of reckoning or some sort of transformation in your dating life where either one of you or both of you recognizes you need to leave certain habits, patterns, behaviors behind because it's just not beneficial towards you in your relationship. You know, perhaps one of you has a habit of vaping and then one partner doesn't like that. And then they realize, okay, yeah, maybe I should quit vaping. It reminds me of that Sex and the City episode where I think Aiden didn't want to date Carrie because she was like a smoker or something like that. But that can be one of the transformations. It doesn't have to be specifically that, but it's just a recognition that there are some habits that you may need to change. And we all have certain things that we hold on to because we're human and we're flawed, that we can we can learn to let go of in order to have better lives. Okay? So whether that be saying, oh, I have some bad unhealthy habits when it comes to take care of my mental health. I have some unhealthy habits when it comes to eating fast food. I have some bad habits when it comes to jumping to conclusions or getting overly anxious and then, you know, spiraling. That can happen, right? So it's just a moment within the relationship where one of you or both of you are honest with themselves or each other, and you transform during this first year, especially since we have this Devil card here. We know the Devil card is all about those addictions, all about these patterns that keep us stuck, all about feeling the weight of being bound to something that is detrimental to you, that is causing pain within your life, whether that be negative thinking patterns, whether that be patterns having to do with unhealthy attachments, whether about not confronting inner demons, not taking accountability, even things having to do with fear or a lack of security, low self-esteem, low confidence. This can all be about that, right? not going towards self-awareness. So this first year, you guys are confronting head on these areas that are almost like, I guess they're the shadow sides of yourself. And maybe I've heard some things, some thought process people have within relationships, where some people treat relationships like power struggles. Like, oh, I don't want to call them first because then, you know, they have all the power and they have all the control. And a lot of people will have this mindset when it comes to relationship, this sort of like power and control dynamic. And luckily, I don't have any friends or family, well, friends, maybe family, something like that, but I don't have any friends like that. And so this sort of mindset is not exactly familiar with me, but I have seen it. And that's something that can be stifling towards relationships. And if you look at John Gottman's, who was a psychologist, and he looked at various different relationships, and there are 4 patterns of relationships that break them down. And I believe it's stonewalling, criticism, contempt, and I'm trying to remember all of them. The 4 horsemen of relationships, I think it's called. I'm trying to remember them all. Contempt, defensiveness. There we go. So there may be some patterns like that where if a partner brings something up to you, and instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry that I made you feel that way, I really did, that was not my intention, the person gets defensive, where, well, I didn't even mean it like that. And actually, you know, if I was going to do something like that, I would have done X, Y, and Z. And, you know, that just wasn't the way I was raised. And I don't do, you know, all of that, right? All of these things can destroy relationships. And I feel as though this first year of dating, you guys are doing your best to tear all of that down so that you can have a more powerful relationship. One thing we see here is with that 6 of Swords. And this represents coming out of rocky patterns, and maybe you've had a lot of disappointment when it comes to relationships, because that 6 of Swords comes from a place of that 5 of Swords. That 5 of Swords is all about being undervalued and unappreciated, having to deal with bitter fights and negative communication, the communication I just spoke about with the defensiveness and the contentment, and having a lot of resentment towards each other and not seeing eye to eye, and making sure instead of wanting to come together and reach an agreement, a person might just be focused on being right. And you might have come out of situations where you were dealing with individuals like that who were a bit emotionally immature or under-evolved in that area. And you're like, oh man, like I have gone through so much when it comes to dating and relationships. And then you move into this partnership with your future spouse, and it's not exactly like those feelings just disappear out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden you are in this happy, fulfilling relationship. Granted, I do think there's a lot of happiness and fulfillment in relationship, but the 6 of Swords carries baggage with them. You know, they carry that emotions. It's about getting out of those rocky waters. And a lot of the feeling is a little bit gloomy. And you can even see people talk about how when they go from these toxic, hostile relationships to one that's healthy, it's hard for them to make that transition because they still have that sense of fear or defensiveness, or they think this person is going to, you know, attack them or belittle them or whatever. Like they might repeat that pattern. There's a little bit of a hypervigilance. And that can happen to people who have gone through some childhood traumas as well, but we don't need to get into everything. And so you're moving on out of that place, but you still may be carrying some of that baggage with you, or it may not be you, could be them. And you're learning how to trust again and to build again and to feel more secure within the relationship. That's why we have this Ace of Pentacles there. It's a newfound sense of security and trust. And it's actually really funny because I think they even said, I'm trying to remember. It's a psychologist said something along the lines, and it had to do with people who have gone through certain traumas. They still get triggered within relationships that are still secure and healthy. just because, like I said, they still hold those traumas with them. So they can still get triggered by things even though nothing is wrong, right? And so that can, I feel like that's more so the energy of this relationship at certain parts, not the whole entire thing, the entire year, right? When I look at things that are happening this first year, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys were traveling. Yes, we're going to move on to some happy things. If you guys were traveling, we literally have 2 cards representing travel here. And so it would be a surprise to me if you guys weren't going on trips that first year of dating. I just saw a story about some woman who met a guy, and I think they're within a month or something, they were traveling to, I don't know, Italy to meet his family or something like that. And I feel like you guys will go on some sort of romantic vacation or trip or whatever your first year of dating. And to be honest, I really enjoy this relationship because I feel as though you guys are feeling a sense of solidarity towards each other. I feel like there is a strong sense of understanding what you practically will need within a relationship, like conversations about like having children or what that looks like, and how you would go about, you know, saving for a house or saving for retirement or building stable structures of like life insurance, opening up brokerage accounts for children. It's just like you're starting to think about the practical day-to-days when it comes to building a life together, especially with that Ace of Pentacles. You're definitely thinking of those long-term goals, 100%. Now, don't get me wrong, the Ace of Pentacles is just kind of like, hey, we're having these conversations. It's not exactly like we're jumping in and doing this now, but you guys talk about the practical things early on. And I think there might be another power like this similar, where you aren't just dreaming and fantasizing about the future. You're really getting into the daily grind of what it takes to be a family, be a couple, raise children. You start talking about this, the actual practical reality of it. Like, could someone stay home? How much would it cost to babysit? Like, what are your projections for 5 years in terms of like your career goals and finances? Like, you guys get into it, you know? So I just want you to know that. And also, when we're talking about Ace of Pentacles, this is all about making practical moves in terms of like, oh, I'm going to bring you into my circle because I want my friends, I want my family to see if I'm with someone who they might believe is a good fit, or what their opinions are, or how we might flow together, right? And for some cases with the Ace of Pentacles, this can represent, you know, combining finances or something like that. But I'm just going to throw that in there for 30% of you. Most people aren't combining finances their first year of dating, right? But they may move into each other. It really depends, okay? I feel like you guys are the type to really be about a lot of showiness, because the Devil card is not always bad. Sometimes it's just saying that there are some materialistic things going on, and connected to the Ace of Pentacles and that Pluto energy, it's like, hey, I want to do something extravagant. You know, we want to give each other really nice gifts or expensive gifts, or we want to do things that have like a luxury type of vibe or lifestyle, and that can be part of the picture. So it's not necessarily bad. It's just like we just like luxury. We like things that are like expensive. We do things like we plan extravagant Valentine's days, and you know, we make sure that we go to 5-star restaurants every now and then, and you know, they take me shopping, and you know, I spoil them, they spoil me. It's like that type of vibe. We're going on a trip to Mauritius. Like, it's very much like living almost like an Instagram lifestyle with the vibes here as well. And I also think that this shows that there's more than likely going to be some daily communication, especially with the Eight of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles. This represents the communication is reliable and consistent. So if somebody, you know, texts you good morning, they're going to text you good morning like every morning, right? If they call you every day after work, or they call you after work, they're going to call you after work, you know, every day, or whatever pattern or schedule you get into. Oh, they call me, you know, every other day. They do that consistently around 6, around 5, around 7. Like, we do that. So it's very consistent when it comes to the dating. Like, if we go out once a week on the weekend, that's when we meet up. Some people have that pattern very, like, early on in their dating. Oh yeah, we meet up once a week. We meet up once a week. And then you form this connection, this relationship. But it does show you guys are having a lot of excitement, having a lot of fun. And I will say the Eight of Wands can represent moving fast. A couple of you guys are moving fast. But I would say it's moved like a fast, and then it slows down right after a period. Like, there just may be like sparks fly fast, wanting to text each other like a lot and spend time together, and then it gets into maybe a slower routine, because the Ace of Pentacles wants things to be a little bit slower. All right, just wants to put a little bit of a break on things. But I do feel like there even may be some surprise trips or plans, or talks about future, maybe sooner than expected, as I mentioned before. But the Eight of Wands is all about momentum, movement, things going quickly, wanting to see each other often, feeling like things go from 0 to 100. Like, there is that vibe here. So there's something to do with that as well. And I really think you guys do a good job of communicating about certain relationships that you've had in the past, or even disappointments. I think that means that you guys are doing your best to make sure that you improve when it comes to the communication, and ensuring that you're trying to leave those old issues to rest. So I want that to be known. It's almost like you're being healed through this partnership. And that's one thing Sun and Pluto can do. It can heal you through a partnership. You know, let's not argue. Let's just figure this out. Like, that's the vibe of this relationship. So I do like to see that there is that coming in. I think that this also is, especially with the Devil card there, it's almost like you guys are like obsessed with each other. Of all the couples and cards and pals that I've gotten, you guys are the most like, we need to be around each other. We love each other. There's like this incredibly strong physical chemistry when you have the Devil card here. And hopefully it doesn't get to this feeling of like possessiveness and control, but I will say Sun and Pluto can represent a little bit of controlling energy, but hopefully it's not leaning into that direction. So I'm just going to say that's maybe for like 20% of you, for you guys. But I feel as though this is more so about learning to build a bond based off of trust. Okay? And not falling into patterns of insecurity, or even like, who are you with, da 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 da. Like, it's like, let me break free of that. I think this is a lesson coming on here with this relationship. And so that's where I'm going to leave you guys with. I do think it's a great relationship. A lot of these pals are like learning a lot through relationships, and I was not expecting that. So that would be happening, but that does seem to be occurring as well. I wouldn't even be surprised if someone went through some dramatic career change, especially with this pile in particular when it comes to the first year of dating. I think that will be an event for one of you or even both of you if possible, but the Sun and Pluto coming together does represent a career shift, along with the Ace of Coins, which can represent a change. Then we also have the Devil, which connects to Capricorn. So there's likely to be some sort of career shift in one of your lives that first year, and that's more than likely going to affect the relationship. Maybe that just switches up somebody's schedule, and then you guys just have to learn to work around it, or it can switch up their budget. It depends, right? You know, obviously the budget can change dating circumstances, right? If you are used to going to more expensive dates, but then they lose their job and they have to take a smaller role until they can find a better one, then yeah, it might be less expensive dates, or vice versa, you know, where they didn't have the most expensive, the most lucrative job, but then they get one, and then it's like, oh, we get to go to really nicer places or travel more. So whatever the case may be, but there is a career shift happening, and that's going to affect the relationship at some point, and I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, I'm finally gonna leave it there. There's probably more there's definitely more I could say, but I don't want these readings to be too long. Please let me know if this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new power. Maybe I'm not the reader for you. Either way, I'm happy you stopped by. Don't forget to get a private reading from me. The link can be found in the description bar below. And also, I go live on the weekends. That is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then sometimes I pop up during the week. Sometimes I pop up on the weekends as well. So be on the lookout for that. I also do the weekly collective. So if you want to know what's coming up this week, then tune into the weekly collectives. That will be on the scheduled live for this week. So that is what I have for you, pile number 5, and I will see you next time. Au revoir.